This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Well, good afternoon, folks, and welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk on an absolutely gorgeous June afternoon. Perfect day for a ball game tonight. And yes, tonight is the WST patio party at the Goldeyes game. Shout out to everyone that bought tickets. We are fully sold out in the lower deck patio for tonight and looking forward to seeing you all there. We'll be set up at 5:30 p.m., an hour before the game, right in front of the box office by the stairs with your wristbands. Got the list of everyone that's purchased tickets, so looking forward to seeing all of you tonight. Come ready to have a good time and hopefully see the Fish pull one out and win the series. Did not go well for them last night after winning on Tuesday. So tonight is the rubber match, and we'll be looking forward to having a great time with all of you this evening. We'll touch a little bit more on that as soon as I bring Michael Remis in. Going to be a fun show today. We'll have the latest on the Bombers as they get ready to travel to BC to take on the Lions in the second end of this back-to-back and to, as strange as this sounds, complete the season series between the Lions and Bombers. Hard to imagine they won't potentially meet later on this season in November for a trip to the Grey Cup. However, Taylor Allen is going to join us, so we'll get the latest on the Bomber beat with Taylor. Looking forward to having the commish back. Of course, I call him the commish because he is the commish of the Winnipeg Media Fantasy Football League and had been abroad for a while. So we'll see how his travels were as well, but we'll focus in on what is coming up on Saturday night. 6 o'clock Winnipeg time start. Note that. I kind of just assumed it was a 9 o'clock game, but it's earlier. So 6 p.m. on Saturday, Bombers, Lions, Taylor Allen coming, and then we'll get into a number of Jet topics and NHL offseason topics heading into the draft and free agency with Murat of The Athletic. A little later on, seeing it as is our Goldeyes Day, a perfect night to bring in the home run king, Max Murphy, who set the all-time record for Goldeyes homers just days ago this season. We'll have Max on. We'll get things set up. We'll hit the Coolbet lines and get ready to see all of you tonight at the ballpark. Just as we bring in Michael Remis, a huge thanks to the sponsors that make WST happen each and every day. Of course, our partners at Coolbet Canada, Princess Auto, Prairie Toyota Dealers, Ben Moss, Rollies Transfer, St. Vital Dental Center, Manitoba Battery and Canadian Club, F Apparel, Aikens Lake, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, Little Brown Jug, the Winnipeg Goldeyes, Assiniboia Downs, Breezy Bend, and we'll get some fan feedback brought to you by fansfirst.ca. And, of course, a Why Not question of the day for Not Autocorp over at Waverly and McGillivray. Michael Remis, what's up? What a great day for some baseball.
Yeah, I got my Goldeyes hat on here.
Nice, old school.
I got the OG one. I'm ready to roll. Tonight, looking forward to seeing everyone. The patio, great. And like how you have the bar right there. Don't have to wait at any lines. Great seating. Should be a solid game. As you mentioned, the Goldeyes did not have a great night last night. Looking to get back in the win column this evening. I know Gregory's going to be there listening to the NBA Finals on radio headset while we're there. So you can do all the things from the tables there. It's going to be great.
Okay, Greg, this is the deal. Greg, you can give us updates on the NBA Finals. I'm going to have the screen up on my phone at times, checking in on Week 3 of the Canadian Football League. We do have a game tonight, Edmonton and Montreal, to kick things off. So that's going to be fun. And listen, there's something else going on tonight. I guess no Canada soccer.
There's baseball, but yeah, I'm looking forward to Edmonton, Montreal. Big start to the season here for Edmonton. They need to get a win, and they haven't really been easy for them. We'll see how Trey Ford does in his second game this year as starter. They had the bye last week, and Montreal looks to be, well, they're the favorite in the East, and I believe they're the favorite at the Grey Cup right now at 2-0.
Yeah, they are. Montreal's a slight favorite. I mean, Montreal's plus 350. The Riders are plus 375. Bombers are plus 400. In what world are the Bombers behind the Saskatchewan Roughriders? I mean, I know that they won 2 games, but I mean, really? Like, did we all not watch what the Bombers did in week number 1? That might be the best number we'll get on Winnipeg all season long, to be perfectly honest with you. Still waiting, and we'll talk about this more with Taylor Allen. And I can just tell you this. I just talked to Dusty doing the lock shop with him, and he will be calling the game between BC and Winnipeg. And when he was doing the Zoom calls with the team, normally you get the starting quarterback. Well, when he did it with BC, Nathan Rourke was there, but Jeremiah Masoli was also there as well. And I have a feeling this is going to be thrown out as a game time decision. But based on a line that opened up at 2.5, Bombers now 3-point favorites, to me, this tells me that they expect Jeremiah Masoli to be the quarterback. And it is kind of interesting, Remo. Zach Caleros Masoli, that's the rematch of the 21 Grey Cup. And 2 different starting quarterbacks that opened the season for these 2 teams last week, obviously because of different circumstances.
Yeah, a lot of quarterback shuffling going on around the league early on. It is kind of funny to have a rematch with 2 different quarterbacks, but I am looking forward to the game. It is 6 p.m. You know, they had the home opener, 9 p.m., like 7 local time there on a Saturday. No more Saturday late games. I'll give a big thumbs down to that, but we do have a lot of Friday night late games this year. But Saturday at 6, nice to get the kids watching the first part of the game before I put them to bed. And I mentioned quarterback changes around the league. We've got an eye on Ottawa, where Drew Brown was hurt, did not play last week. It was Matthew Schultz starting, and Dustin Crum has been taking first-team reps with them. So we'll see what happens there. It sounds like Crum is going to be starting for them in Calgary. What is that one? Is that on Saturday? I don't even know the schedule.
Yeah, that's the Saturday afternoon game. That's the 3:00 game. And then BC and Winnipeg at 6. And funny story, I mean, I just finished the lock shop. We were going into the CFL lines. And, I had Coolbet up, and I'm saying, well, look, I mean, Crum's taking the reps right now, and we've got Calgary. It's just a 1-point favorite. This might be the time to get on it. And as I was saying that, the lock thing came on, and the line moved to 2.5 right now. Listen, if it's Dustin Crum for Ottawa going up against VA, I would expect that line probably is on the other side of 3 by the time the game kicks off. But regardless of point spreads, nice spot for Calgary to be in, potentially taking on a third-string quarterback with the potential of going to 3-0 after that ugly start that they had last year. So we'll get into some of that with Taylor Allen when he joins us as well. Remo, I have to note in chat, I see our pal Slick McGuire with a tweet. Hello from Pearson. Just about to board the flight. Can't wait to see a bunch of you all later. Slick, of course, is the British Jets fan that we met at the end of the regular season at the start of the playoffs. And you correct me if I'm wrong, but through the Discord and through meeting a whole bunch of the WSTers, they've got him back this early, and he's going to be at the ball game tonight.
Yeah, so Slick McGuire lives in UK, and he visited Winnipeg at the end of the season. I think he was at the first home playoff game and the last game of the regular season. Stayed at Spency's house, and when he left, he was here for a week maybe, and when he left, Spency was like in total withdrawal. Candace in the chat as well. Like, they didn't know what to do with themselves, and found a way to convince him to come back. He's here, going to the Bomber game next Thursday with Schnitzy.
Oh, yes.
And he's here just in time for Goldeyes. This is like perfect timing. And yeah, just becoming friends with everyone through the Winnipeg Sports Talk community. We got people talking in the Discord all the time. So looking forward to seeing everyone tonight, including Slick, who I didn't get a chance to meet, but did drop off some WST merch to him while he was here. So this is awesome.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing Slick and all of you tonight. Remo, I know you sent out the email to everyone, but in case people just got on a little late, reiterate to everyone how things are working tonight. It's inevitable you have questions when we're not just sending directly the tickets out by email. Fill people in on what is happening tonight, beginning at 5:30 when we'll be set up and ready to go in front of the ballpark.
Yes, I sent out an email to everyone. It was from my personal account, not by accident, not from the Winnipeg Sports Talk account. That's what happens when you're logged into like so many Gmails. But but we will be there set up in front of the box office with a table, Winnipeg Sports Talk sign. We have wristbands. Come give your name. You'll get the wristband. You also have koozies. We'll be giving away some other goodies. Handing out, I got some stickers and magnets. So come say hi. Even if you're not part of the group, we're all hanging out craft beer corner area. We've got our patio as well. That is for the wristband holders. But this is going to be so exciting tonight. And last year, the game was like 2 hours long or less because it was like 1-0 pitchers matchup. We'll see what kind of game we get this evening, but I'm looking forward to seeing all the food there and whatever else is going on. Very exciting.
Yeah, going to be great. And by the way, Spency has just let me know that we have been completely Don Cherrying Slick's name. It's not McGuire. It is McGee.
Oh, I thought it was McGuire this whole time.
I know. There's no R in there. We just sort of put one in there, and I don't know. Maybe it just rolled off the tongue. But UK Slick is going to be in the house tonight, as well as so many of our friends from the WST chat. Going to be a lot of fun.
I should say shout out to, I threw out an email to everyone who's coming saying, hey, if you want to wear a WST hat at the game, promo code FISH, you can get one for 25% off, and I'll bring it. So shout out to Bobby B, Al Broderick, Eric Schmidt, and who bought one? Connor's dad, Ken, got one. So I have your guys' hats. If anyone else wants, we can bring them to the game. So again, this is a very exciting time. Hockey off season, CFL underway, and the draft is already next week. Huss, can you believe that? This LA draft, very weird. I'm thinking like this time last year we were getting ready for Vegas. Not so much this year.
No, not happening this year. But that's fine. We'll get ready to do it again next year, hopefully. And hey, with the Jets picking 28th, I think there's a very good chance they don't make that pick, as we have talked about extensively on this program. Going all the way to LA with nobody else there didn't make a lot of sense this year, but we will certainly be all over it. What else was I going to mention to you just regarding to the game? At 5:30, we're going to be there. We'll have all the wristbands and everything. Let's fire it out. Oh, and yes, and you mentioned the Brodericks. I do have to quickly give a thanks to now both Brodericks are marbles champions. But recently, I believe it's Linda, Al's wife, was the winner. Came by my spot after the game, after the show on Tuesday, to pick it up, and was so kind, dropped me off homemade jalapeno cheese potato pierogies, which were amazing. But the showstopper was her homemade egg rolls. And I was out watching the game, having a few with my friends on Tuesday night, came back and realized that these homemade egg rolls had just been delivered. And oh my God, I've never had a homemade egg roll ever. I mean, I'm familiar with Peking and some of the other Chinese food places around town. Quite familiar, in fact. These were as good as any I've ever had. Frankly, maybe better. So thank you very much for that. Looking forward to seeing you and the entire WST crew tonight. All right. Just looking at a chat right now, Reem, and I think it was Boring Sean Monahan that said, hey, did Ehlers sign yet? I'm sick of being tormented with this possibility of getting to July 1st. Listen, all we can tell you is what the reports have been, that he's going to see what is out there. Certainly still open to Winnipeg. And we've got a clip from Darren Dreger on that coming up in a moment as well. It did dawn upon me, though, and I was listening to Elliot Friedman today earlier, and he wasn't talking about Ehlers at all. He was talking about, like, Zetterlund, who just signed in Ottawa. Of course, Matt Duchene, we should get to that actually right off the bat. Matt Duchene signed a 4-year extension, $18 million with the Dallas Stars, 4.5 AAV. Dallas has almost no cap space remaining. But Zetterlund signed a 3-year extension with the Ottawa Senators. It's rumored that Trent Frederick is going to ink an 8-year deal, potentially as high as $4 million a year with the Edmonton Oilers. And the Ottawa Senators are in negotiations to hopefully keep Claude Giroux around. Everyone's is a pending free agent until they're not. And I just will remind people, because I mean, I've been guilty too. When I heard a lot of these reports, I kind of felt like Ehlers was as good as gone. But I felt like that times 10 about Connor Hellebuck when I read in The Athletic that the ship had sailed and he would be gone. And I mean, Mark Scheifele maybe even more so, considering how that last season went and everything that happened around the previous 2 years with the hockey club. And we know how that ended up. So I'll say this, Reem, and I'm interested in your thoughts on it. I still think that there is the possibility, especially keeping in mind that the Jets have the ability to offer the 8th year. They are not up against it yet. There still is a couple weeks until the 1st of July. You know that there'll be some talks with agents about, what may possibly be out there. And I'll just say this. I don't entirely rule out the possibility of us getting a press release out of the blue or a tweet that has Nikolai Ehlers sticking around with the Winnipeg Jets. I will admit that is somewhat wishful thinking. I am someone that would love to see Nick come back. I think it would be a real hit to the hockey club and a massive hole that will be very difficult to replace. But while I know a lot of people are saying that he's good as gone, I'm not willing to go there yet. And I think history has told us we should kind of pump the Jets a little bit on anything that is inevitable or impending, because I think things could go a different way. And we've certainly seen the Jets make some magic happen when everyone thought the door was closed in the past.
Yeah, here it is. June 10, 2023, updated June 15, 2023 in The Athletic. Let me scroll down here. Oh, yeah, there it is. And then there's Connor Hellebuck and Mark Scheifele. Odds are both are traded, and there should be no confusion about whether Hellebuck has interest in signing an extension in Winnipeg. That ship has sailed. His next contract will be with the new team. It is fun to bring that one up. That was in The Athletic. So as much as we're tuned in to the insiders and what all the reports are, what everyone's saying, and I agree, everyone is a pending free agent until they're not. And Julian does note that they weren't a couple weeks away from free agency, which is certainly fair. But
True.
Which is certainly fair. But I mean, this was the report that they're reporting in The Athletic. His next contract will be with a new team, and that
there was no wiggle room there.
Yeah, there was no probably, or this might happen. So look, we'll see what happens with Ehlers. I will say, when I got the email last weekend, Winnipeg Jets had agreed to terms with Alphonse Fry, their draft pick from last year. I didn't see the whole email when it came in. I just saw, did they sign Ehlers? And I was getting ready to be excited. So maybe there is a part of me that thinks a deal's not done until it's signed on the dotted line. So I think this will go to July 1, but maybe he does look around and say, you know what, I'm pretty happy in Winnipeg. But Dreger is getting asked about it on all the shows, including Overdrive yesterday.
Johnny Bender, would the Jets need to allow permission for Ehlers to talk to other teams right now to gauge interest? Yes. There is now. Do we have is there the tampering period again right now? Like when they've had it, and then they said that's not happening anymore because it really took away from July 1st. The bottom line is, if it gets to July 1st, the Jets can't offer or sign him to an 8-year deal either. Like that 8-year deal, if it is on the table, and I'm not suggesting that it is, I hope it is, because I think that's probably the best path to keep Nikolai Ehlers as a Winnipeg Jet. That has to be done by the 30th of June. Come July 1st, you're an unrestricted free agent, and the longest contract that can be signed is a 7-year deal. And while Julian is right, I mean, those guys had, one more year left on their contracts. That was where Ehlers was last year and obviously played brilliantly for the Jets and had a massive part of the number one power play in the league. I'm giving enough wiggle room in what I'm saying. Like, I'm not saying this is happening. I'm just saying there are still potentials on both sides, I think, for it to go. And I think, our numbers that we did the poll, 70% probably gone, 30% staying. Even though I said at the time, I think maybe we were being a little optimistic, I think I'd still say like in the 25 to 30%. Am I going to be surprised if he signs elsewhere? No. But as of right now, I'm still personally keeping the light on for Nick if he wants to come home and stay here in Winnipeg. You mentioned the Darren Drager report. He was on Overdrive yesterday. He was asked about Nikolai Ehlers. And listen, he's being asked about Nikolai Ehlers because the guys in Toronto were thinking, maybe he'd be a great ad there. There's been a lot of rumors in Montreal that Montreal would love to have him. Keep that in mind when you hear this. This is from Overdrive yesterday on TSN.
Nikolai Ehlers. When you hear that name, where do you go first, Dregs?
Well, I stay in Winnipeg. Winnipeg would love to retain Nikolai Ehlers, and what's the cost? I guess we don't know the specifics of that until you fully assess what the market is, but we can all appreciate what Nick Ehlers, when healthy, can bring to a lot of teams. There's been a fair bit of speculation around the Carolina Hurricanes, what they might do, how a player like Nikolai Ehlers might fit into that dynamic, and I could see that. He's good defensively. Again, he's got that speed factor. There is a question mark because he is often hurt. I checked in one of my Winnipeg sources a couple of days ago and was told that there's nothing new on that front. And look, Ehlers, because he's earned his right to free agency, he's a different personality. Like, he's a cool cat. He's excellent in the community. He's really good in the room. He's good with the media. He ticks a lot of boxes. But, there is a sense with Ehlers that he'd like to go to a place that's pretty quiet. And when I think of Winnipeg, compared to Toronto or Montreal or New York or any of the big markets, Winnipeg is small and would be pretty quiet. So if he's looking for more privacy than what he might have in Winnipeg, then that might be a challenge in terms of many that dip their toe into the market. But he'll have a strong audience if he gets to July 1.
Yeah, listen, if Ehlers is looking for somewhere that is quiet, listen, I think Winnipeg would count as that. Let's face it. You think about Nick and his time here. Any noise about Nikolai Ehlers in the media amongst fans has really been pumping his tires and saying we'd like to see more of him. I think he's enjoyed a relatively quiet life existence. There's no big stories about Nikolai Ehlers off the ice or anything like that. And obviously, he's a huge part of this hockey club. Now, we can get into the conversation about, is he available? Is he capable of bigger minutes and more things like that? Absolutely. But we know where we're at. There's no more games to be played. This is going to be negotiations between the Jets, the Ehlers camp, and if it gets to July 1st, or potentially beforehand with the tampering that inevitably goes on with third parties to see what is out there, which might actually be in favor of the Winnipeg Jets. I think they see that kind of what's being thrown out there is similar to what's being offered in Winnipeg, and potentially there's an 8th year. Maybe that works in the Jets' favor. Bottom line is, as Spency said, is there a produce department on earth that can handle some Ehlers news? I will commit to all of you that if that news comes out, that Nikolai Ehlers has re-signed with the Winnipeg Jets, I will immediately go to the nearest produce department, pull out the phone, and drop another banger for you all for some breaking news. That's pretty much the only time I'm ever in a produce department, to break news. One time in a Target in Grand Forks, coming back from a Chiefs-Vikings game with the Hellebuck and Scheifele news, and I can only hope I have the opportunity to pop in there, maybe get some corn, a few apples, and tell you all that Ehlers is staying with the Winnipeg Jets. But I'd say that might be less than likely right now as opposed to not, but we will see what happens over the course of the next little bit. Thanks to Remo for getting that clip from Dregs on Overdrive yesterday. We are going to chat some Bombers coming up with the triumphant return of the commish, Taylor Allen. Looking forward to that. Before we do that, big thanks to Rolly's Transfer for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Gang, keep your eyes out on the road for the Winnipeg Sports Talk truck, which is helping Winnipeggers and Manitobans make moves with Rollies. A beautiful new truck on the road with WST on it. Keep your eyes out for that. And I'm going to be talking to my pal Ryan over at Rollies in the next little bit. We're going to put together a bit of a contest. So if you do see the Rollies vehicle out on the road, snap a pic of it, and you'll be able to send it in to us, and we'll be doing some prizing for people to keep their eyes out for Rollies. Hit Rollies Transfer. Use the promo code WST for all of your moving needs. 60 years plus, family-owned and operated here in Manitoba, and the most trusted name in moving in the game. Rollies.com, again, for all the information and to request an estimate. Today, our friends at St. Vital Dental Center, ready for summer. If you want to get the kids in or the entire family in to take care of the grills before you get away for July and August, now's the time to do it. Generations of Winnipeggers and Manitobans have been taking care of their families' teeth at St. Vital Dental Center. Our pal Dr. Terry, his amazing staff, beautiful new facility at 167 St. Anne's, convenient free parking in the background, in the back of the building. They've got it all. Make an appointment today and make St. Vital Dental Center your long-term dental home for you and your family. You can find out more online and make an appointment at stvitaldental.ca. Our friends at Canadian Club are ready for summer and ready for the weekend. Of course, you can pick up the great taste of the original Canadian whiskey, Canadian Club, at your local Manitoba liquor marts. But keep your eye out for the new Canadian Club Club Pack with the 3 flavors of their ready-to-drink cocktails, including Canadian Club and ginger ale, and the new Citrus Smash and a half and half, which is half lemonade, iced tea. Amazing on the golf course. It's waiting for you just in time for the weekend as well at your local Manitoba liquor marts from our friends at Canadian Club. And just before we talk Bombers, Manitoba Battery, sparking our weekends in the entire summer, whether you're talking boats, ATVs, jet skis, campers. Make sure your battery is ready to go. And if you have battery needs for literally anything, it's time to wake up and stop paying too much at the big box stores. You'll save up to $60 a battery at Manitoba Battery. You'll be shopping local. You'll get the best service in town. And heck, you can pop into one of their 2 locations, Logan Avenue or Dovercourt Drive, or just give them a call or order online, and they'll deliver the batteries to you for free anywhere inside the perimeter with any purchase over $60. It's just that easy. See them in store today or order online at manitobabattery.com. All right, it's been a minute since we've had our next guest on. The commish himself, Taylor Allen, joins us back on the Bomber beat after worldly travels. Taylor, what's up, man? It's great to have you back on Winnipeg Sports Talk. How are you?
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate the invite back on. It's been too long, but I got Jeff Hamilton as a coworker, right? So I needed a break, Huss. I needed to get out of the country for a little bit. It's not easy being around that guy all the time. So I just needed a little 9 month sabbatical. But
understandable.
I'm back, so good to go.
Understandable. A quick update, because I know you were operating your team from, I believe it was Thailand at one point. Where did your travels take you when you were away from the Freep?
Oh, man. Well, my girlfriend and I, we were very fortunate to take 9 months off work, and 14 different countries in total, all across Asia. We made the rounds, did everywhere in Southeast Asia, added a few interesting ones like Taiwan and Uzbekistan as well, finished off in China, Korea, Japan, saw a lot of pro baseball, saw some pro basketball, saw some pro wrestling, saw some sumo wrestling. So definitely made a lot of time for sports as well over there, and even got to meet up with Brady Oliveira one day in Bali and see him do his dog rescue thing. And that was an eye-opening experience in more ways than one. So I felt very blessed to be able to take that opportunity and jump on it.
Okay, without going through the entire power poll of your travels, what was the best place that you visited, and what was the one that you could probably wouldn't have on a return visit?
Oh, man. There's so much to see and do in Japan, so that's an easy answer, especially if you're a sports fan and, to be honest, a pro wrestling nerd like myself. But Uzbekistan was just so different from anywhere else in the world that we've ever been. The food was amazing, the culture was amazing, the people were amazing, and it was dirt cheap. Huss, our first night there, we saw the opening night of the Uzbekistan Super Soccer League, and our ticket was $3. So now I'm a diehard Uzbekistan soccer whatever the heck the league was even called fan, because like, yeah, it was just felt like this back the prices from like 50 years ago, basically. So
let's get some Uzbek pricing going on in North American sports right now.
Tell me about it. I wish.
Okay, listen, I'm a bit of a wrestling wonk as well. You saw some of the Japanese wrestling?
Yeah, we saw 2 New Japan Pro Wrestling shows, which were incredible. One in Hiroshima, and then one in Tokyo as well. And then I snuck in. My girlfriend had enough after 2 shows. And fair enough. She was a trooper to even do 1, never mind 2. But then I saw another smaller promotion called Dragon Gate Pro Wrestling, and they had a smaller show, but at a really cool venue. And yeah, then they have these wrestling stores and bars and Ribera Steakhouse. If you're a wrestling fan, you know that reference. So jammed a lot of wrestling stuff.
Okay, one more quick one before we get to Bombers. Just on the wrestling. How different are Japanese wrestling audiences than North American wrestling audiences? Because from the limited amount of Japanese stuff I've seen, it seems like there are major cultural differences from the people and how they behave at these events. Because let's face it, North American wrestling fans, there's not a lot that's off limits.
No, and honestly, that's a fantastic question. So our first show in Hiroshima, the match starts. Like you've been to a Raw or AEW, whatever that comes to Winnipeg, and like there's people always talking and cheering and waving their signs and screaming, "Ah, you suck," and whatever other insults at guys right constantly throughout the night. In Japan, the bell rings and it is silent. It's like you're watching a wrestling match in a library, which at first is a very awkward experience. Like you could hear the guys grunting and everything, but then a guy will hit a move and everyone will react. They'll clap and you'll hear the "oh" and all that stuff and whatever. Like they react to every single tiny move. And there's no like here in North America, we kind of like the cheesy pro wrestling storylines, right? Like, "Oh, you took my wife from me. Now we're going to meet this Sunday at Backlash," or whatever, where in Japan, it's just like, these guys have a respectful match and they hate each other very hard in Japanese pro wrestling. But then once the match ends, they'll just stare down another guy. And it's like, okay, now we're going to feud and then we're going to have a match at the next show. So yeah, there's lots of cultural differences, but man, if you haven't seen wrestling before, haven't seen Japanese pro wrestling before, I would highly recommend anyone to go check it out, because yeah, it's something else and it's really entertaining.
I look forward to peppering you with questions over a beer at some time for more on the KBO. I'm a big KBO guy.
Yeah, amazing.
Baseball and all that. But speaking of hard hitting, let's get to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And just before we talk about the week of practice and this rematch this week, thoughts on the performance of the Bombers as a home underdog with Chris Streveler and the performance top to bottom that they put together in that home opener last week leading into the rematch on Saturday night?
Well, first of all, I can't believe this was a team that was a home underdog. Yeah, I know Chris Streveler was starting and not Zach Collaros, but I mean, come on, like you give Mike O'Shea a bye to work with, he's going to make you pay for it. Like he is now 18-1 coming out of a bye since, 2017, 18-1 coming out of a bye.
He's the Andy Reid of the CFL.
Yeah, literally. So there's many different ways that could go with this game. I mean, of course, you could talk all about Chris Streveler and the fact that here's a guy who tore 3 ligaments in his knee last year. And there's no guarantee that anyone could come back from that, let alone come back 9 months later. Hey, we need you to start our first game of the year. And he has maybe his best game as a pro, like at least as a passer, 3 touchdowns, nearly 250 yards. Like he was fantastic. But I think for me, the biggest takeaway of this game is how many of these new faces stepped up for Winnipeg. I mean, Matthew Paterson, perfect example right there. Brady Oliveira goes down, the reigning MOP in the first quarter. And this guy that probably, I would just bet 99% of the crowd never even heard of, Matthew Paterson, a 5th-round draft pick out of Alberta that they traded for with Hamilton on draft day. And he didn't even play last year with Hamilton. His first CFL action, and he looks fantastic. They look at the O-line that he was running behind. They had 2 new American guys starting in that game that they weren't starters last year. Kendall Randolph, Mika Vanterpool. Those guys look great. This team, they lost Kenny Lawler in the offseason. That's not a guy that's easily replaceable. And yet Carrick Wheatfall, who had a few flashes last year, but overall didn't have that fantastic of a rookie year. He stepped up with a massive game and had 127 yards, 5 catches, and a touchdown. They look on defense. Marquise Bridges. I mean, they lost Tyrell Ford at corner this offseason to Edmonton. That's a guy who had 7 picks. It was a breakout start for them last year. He's gone. Well, Marquise Bridges, a guy who's in his second year, didn't really play last year. He's now taken over that spot where Ford was. What does he do? 2 interceptions. So offense, defense, special teams, there's just so many really kind of just new faces stepping up for the Bombers, and they needed that because they lost some pretty important guys this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, I was impressed top to bottom. And you mentioned the offensive line. I thought that this is sort of low-lying fruit if you really dig into any football game. If you see a team really win the line of scrimmage, they're probably winning the football game. But I thought what the offensive line was able to do, not just for the running game, but for Strevler to be able to have the time to perform at that level passing the football. Just crazy that he only had 2 rushes in the entire game, even more so with Brady Oliveira being out. And then obviously the performance of Paterson was unreal. But I thought the defensive line, albeit that they weren't sacking Nathan Rourke very often, Rourke seemingly had absolutely no time to get comfortable. He started off 1 for 10. I mean, that defensive line was such a big part of staking the team out to the lead that they had. I'm not sure it got enough credit after the fact just because of the big performances by other players that maybe showed up on the scoreboard more.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Nathan Rourke was 12 for 27, like not efficient whatsoever. And yeah, he completed some passes towards the end and stuff. But I mean, the Bombers have this guy's number. He's 0-5 against Winnipeg, including that playoff loss. And here's a guy that, when he had that amazing first year as a starter in the CFL, people were anointing him already as like, hey, this is going to be the face of the league for the next 10 years, assuming if he ever comes back from the NFL. And obviously he did. But man, like they got this guy's number. He just can't figure it out against this team. I mean, you look at his stats against the rest of the league. I think he has his quarterback rating is like 110 against the rest of the league. But when he plays the Bombers, it's around 60. Like it's just a night and day difference. And another guy on that Bombers defense that was giving Nathan Rourke some issues was Tony Jones at linebacker. I mean, this is a team that had Adam Bighill for years, and him and Willie were the face of this defense. And, injuries piling up for Adams, getting a little older. And how lucky are they that they were able to find Tony Jones off the street last year when he was cut from Edmonton, and how big of a part of this defense that he's been. He had 10 tackles as well. So the D-line, the linebackers, the secondary, even Jamal Parker, he's now at safety where Brandon Alexander was for so many years for this team. There was a deep pass or two that was completed on him, but he was right there. They're kind of 50-50 balls. So, just all phases of the defense, they came out to play, and we'll see if they could do it again this weekend against the Lions once again.
Taylor Allen on the Bomber Beat with the Winnipeg Free Press joining us on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Brady Oliveira's been out there. He's been running around a bit. He hasn't been in pads. No one expects him to play this weekend. Let's talk about what that does, not only to the running back depth chart and position, but also the ratio without having the Canadian behind Brady or behind Paterson in this case to come in. They've activated the other running back. You can tell us about him, and how do we think that might change who is in and on the roster for Saturday's game?
Well, first of all, it drives me absolutely insane that the CFL, and more specifically the Bombers, could be so secretive about these injuries. The Indiana Pacers are playing Game 6 of the NBA Finals tonight, and their superstar player, Tyrese Halliburton, who gets paid $42 million a year, by the way, we know that he has a strained calf. We know this. And yet the Bombers, we don't know what Brady has. We don't know what
upper body injury.
Yeah, we don't even know what Mike Benson has, the long snapper, right? So every week we're playing this guessing game and trying to ask Mike O'Shea for an injury update on these guys, and he never gives us anything, and it's infuriating. But anyways, sorry for my little tangent there.
I don't disagree.
I mean, obviously you want Brady back in this lineup as soon as possible. But I mean, Matthew Paterson, coming into this year, I had a concern for this team because they had Johnny Augustine backing up Brady for these past few years. And every time Johnny Augustine got a chance to start, he put up really good numbers. His yards per carry average is over 5, which is fantastic. So they let him walk, bringing this Matthew Paterson kid who's, hasn't proven anything in this league. And he has a fantastic game. So I think he even said to us earlier this week, maybe I took BC by surprise a little bit. They didn't have any film on me. So we'll see, we'll see how they attack him now that they actually know what to expect from him. But now I'm blanking on the guy's name. Their American rookie.
I'll find it. He's a new guy, and he had a great training camp.
They're very high on him.
Cooley?
Yeah, there we go.
There we go. Thank you, Remis.
Yes. Yeah, he is. They love the way this guy runs. Like asking Mike O'Shea about Cooley the first time after that preseason game. I don't think I've ever heard him rave so much about a player in my 5 years covering this team. And I'm serious, because he was like, he was the best player in the field in this game. We love what he brings to the team. He's a super physical runner. If you want to impress Mike O'Shea, you need to be a physical player. And this Cooley, like he runs like Brady Oliveira. That's exactly what he does. So yeah, if he does get in the lineup, then honestly, this Bombers running attack is still going to be something for the Lions to be concerned about. Meanwhile, BC, this has been the story. It seems like every time they play the Bombers, they can't run the ball. James Butler had 10 carries for 27 yards last week against the Bombers. So, and especially if they're going to have to go with Jeremiah Mazzoli, who knows what to expect from him. 36 years old. He's come off some pretty big injuries these past few years. The Lions are going to need to establish a running game.
Quentin Cooley, he comes to the Bombers after a 5-year collegiate career. He finished up with Liberty, played 3 years at Wake Forest. That's some big numbers for two. He's basically averaging over 100 yards a game at Liberty. It's always neat because when you have a player like Oliveira, who is just so clearly the incumbent and the guy that's going to be carrying the mail, often you don't spend as much time talking about or even paying attention to the depth chart because you know that is the guy. But very early, you can see how things can change. I will give, and we talked about this, we gave your colleague, our buddy Josh Frey-Sam, a lot of credit because he came in and almost out of nowhere in training camp started talking about how good Matthew Paterson had looked. And, if he gets an opportunity, look what he might be able to do. And bang, it happened in the first game. But in talking with Hammer on CFL 110, he said that, listen, as great as Paterson was and took advantage of the opportunity, do not sleep on Quentin Cooley. They love this guy. And he said he'd be surprised if he didn't get some significant reps. I just do wonder, with him being an American as opposed to the Bombers really leaning on Canadians at that running back position, how that all might shake out. But I would have to think that both Cooley and Paterson will probably get opportunities early on in the game. And listen, if one guy starts playing like he's got the hair on fire, they'll continue to give him the rock. But both of these guys, I think, are going to be heavily involved in the Jason Hogan offense in the rematch on Saturday.
Yeah, Cooley is a guy who had some NFL draft talk. Like there was some whispers that this is a guy that could go in the 7th round or sign as an undrafted free agent. And for whatever reason, nothing came to fruition for him. And I talked to him about that. And he said, yeah, like the draft ended and my phone didn't ring. Like usually those guys who are kind of on the bubble to getting picked in that last round, they at least get a mini camp invite or something. And he had nothing. He started working this warehouse job where he was like working like 14-hour days, installing fridges and whatever crazy appliances at people's houses and stuff. And he was just kind of operating as if like, okay, I guess football might be over for me. But then he gets this call and, hey, you want to come up to Winnipeg? Okay, never heard of it. And shows up and he just kills it in camp. And here we go. So, you never would have expected to see Brady Oliveira go down on their first drive. And now us talking about Quentin Cooley just in their second game of the season. But here we are. But the Bombers traditionally have started only 2 Americans on their offensive line. It was been Stanley Bryant and, Jamarcus Hardrick for the longest time at right tackle. And last year was Eric Lofton and now it's Kendall Randolph at right tackle. But last week, they had 3 Americans starting on the offensive line. So if they need to get Cooley in there, like we kind of expect, then you might be able to see Gabe Wallace, Canadian second-year kid, play a guard this weekend, perhaps.
And one other thing that, and maybe you can touch on from practice and anything else that you've noticed, we didn't see Clemens Claircius out there. And, that would further complicate the ratio because of, his spot as a Canadian on that roster, with the loss of a couple other guys that had Canadian passports last year.
There you go. That's another guy that they've been kind of hoping could step up this year with losing Drew Wolodarski. Like this is a team for years have been really spoiled that they've been able to hang on to so many veteran guys year after year, have like so little turnover. But this is a year where like they're really looking at a lot of younger guys and saying like, no, we for us to make it back to that Grey Cup, for us to actually win the Grey Cup, we're going to need some fresh faces to really get the job done. And Kevin Sklercius is one of those guys. I mean, you look at his time in college, he didn't really put up big numbers, but you see this guy in person and it's like, okay, this guy looks like a professional football player. He's just like absolutely shredded and whatnot. And he had some really good moments for them last year. I think this is a guy that they could really develop into a pretty solid Canadian receiver moving forward.
Speaking of the quarterback matchup, it is sort of wild that, we're talking about the second game of the season for Winnipeg, and we could have two different quarterbacks starting in the rematch. As I said, just looking at the point spread in these games that's being hung out right now, I expect it to be Jeremiah Masoli. And as I mentioned earlier on, for what it's worth, I just did the lock shop with Dustin Nielsen, who's doing the game for TSN, and when they meet with the teams, they always get the starting quarterbacks on Zoom. It was Nathan Rourke was there, but so was Jeremiah Masoli. And I guess they're playing this as a game time decision. We'll see what happens. Zach Collaros isn't going to be a game time decision. He had to sit back and watch week one. Obviously, it went incredibly well. But what are your expectations for Zach this week? I got to think that coming off the Grey Cup game and the suspension, he's going to be playing with a bit of a chip on his shoulder right out the gate. But Chris Streveler set the bar pretty high in week one.
Yes, he did. But I mean, Zach was just going insane last week. Like it killed him to miss that game and have to watch not even be on the sideline for the game. He was inside the locker room, or he's inside the weight room walking on the treadmill for most of the game. He just wanted to keep busy. And it was driving him insane. And it is a very unique situation where your star quarterback isn't playing his first game of the year until week 3 of the season. But yeah, he's roaring a goal, man. And I've just been watching some of the passes he's been throwing this week. Like, he looks good. Yeah, so I am expecting a pretty big game from him. He's probably very fired up, super excited to get out there. And who knows, like, this might be a benefit that, they start the year with a bye and he had to sit and watch for, that week 2 game last week. Like, he's had a lot of time to prepare for this week 3 game, right? They're definitely not rushing him into anything. So yeah, I could see a pretty big Zach Collaros performance this weekend for sure.
Hey, Taylor, one of the other really interesting kind of wrinkles to last week's game was the return of Buck Pierce as the head coach of the British Columbia Lions. And of course, Buck won his opener against Edmonton, lost to the Bombers, and now, a huge game for these teams. I mean, when you consider it's the last meeting of the season, could very well have major tiebreaker implications when it comes to the playoffs later on this season. And the Bombers have that 14-point cushion as well. If it comes, they'll want to win the game. They don't want to just lose by less than 14 to get the tiebreaker. But all of that stuff will come into play. But while a lot of attention was on Buck on the BC sidelines, we hadn't talked a lot about Jason Hogan taking over the Bomber offense. And I know he spoke earlier this week. You've been around the team. What do we know about Hogan? What do we learn about Hogan's offense that might be different in week number 1? And, as they transition from Strev in week 1, who threw the ball a ton, to Zach Collaros, have you garnered anything about just the offensive philosophy on how it might be different than Buck, who'd been doing it for the last number of years?
Usually when your team loses their OC or they get poached to be a head coach somewhere else, it's a big loss and like you're upset, you're kind of licking your wounds a little bit. But I think maybe more so the fan base was so frustrated with how that last Grey Cup went that when Buck left, I think they're kind of like, you know what, thank you for your service, but I think we're ready to try something different here. So bring in Jason Hogan. Here's a guy who's been paying his dues, right? Starting out as a running backs coach. And anytime you speak to Brady these past couple years and ask him about the success he's been having, the MOCs, the MOP now, one of the very first names, if not the first name that he always mentions, is Jason Hogan and how much he's meant to his career. And I was talking to Mike earlier this week about Jason, just asking him, like, were there signs early on when you first got this guy in the building 4 or 5 years ago, whatever it was, that this is a guy that could become a really good play caller, become an OC one day? And he said, when he first got here, he'd be at the stadium like all hours of the night, and he'd be watching clinic tape, like watching different coaches talk about their strategies and their systems and whatnot. Like, he was just like constantly in coaching school, basically watching this tape and footage like all the time. And sure enough, he put in all that extra effort, and work, and he's now an OC. And I was really impressed when he spoke to us the other day, and obviously watching him call the plays. Like, he doesn't seem like a first-year young OC. Like, he speaks with a lot of confidence. He clearly calls plays with a lot of confidence, and seems like a guy who's been doing this for a really long time. And it seems like it's been a seamless transition for this team. And again, like, what a big test for him. Hey, this is your first time you're going to be an OC in the CFL. Oh, by the way, your veteran quarterback, Zach Claris, yeah, he's suspended. He can't play. Oh, and your running back, Brady Oliveira, who's been a huge part of your success, and vice versa. Yeah, he's going to go down in the first quarter, and you're going to have to roll with this kid who's picked in the fifth round out of Alberta, who's never played in the CFL before. Okay, good luck with that. And what does he do? He dials up an incredible performance. Like, the student, outcoached the teacher in that one. Like, he schooled Buck in that one. Like, he really did. Like, it was a very impressive performance. And just speaking to the players this week as well about Jason Hogan, like, they're all super happy for him. They all spoke very highly of him. And yeah, he seems like a guy that this team's going to be in good hands with, for sure.
It couldn't have gone much better. And I'll say this, to lean on the passing game the way he did, being a running backs coach, being a Brady Oliveira guy.
I wasn't seeing that. I didn't see that coming. Yeah. I even asked Trevi about that. I said, like, was that the strategy? Like, for you to only run twice? Is it because you're coming off of your knee injury? And he's like, no, it was just like he trusted me to throw the ball, and I was slinging it, and there you go. So he caught everyone off guard with that. And
yeah, well, certainly the BC Lions. And again, we said that, if I told you that Brady Oliveira was going to go down after 2 carries, what would Strevler's carry number be? I think the over-under would be like 13.5 or something like that. And it wasn't even close. But, they'll look to continue that momentum. Hard to beat a team twice in a row, although they've done it a number of times. They did it last year. And this week, the quarterback questions aren't on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. They're on the BC Lions. Hey, just before we go, you mentioned Chris Strevler. He'll be backing up this week. You had a really interesting piece yesterday in the Free, I guess in today's Free, but it came last night on the site about football becoming more of a family affair in the Peg. And, we heard Chris talk about being able to play in front of his new daughter for the first time. But, similarly to what we've seen the maturation of the Jets team over the last few years, a lot of toddlers and tykes running around that Bomber facility these days.
Absolutely. And you're plugging the article. There you go. Thanks. Appreciate it. It just kind of got me thinking after their first game, right? Like, Chris Strevler, he's talking to reporters, and the first thing that he says is just how much it meant to him to have his daughter in the crowd. So just kind of got me thinking, like, how many guys on this team that when they first got to Winnipeg, they were these young guys and whatever. And now here they are now, and you see their wives and kids at practice every day. And I said in the article, but like, when practice ends at the stadium, it honestly feels like recess begins, because you see all the wives chasing their kids down the stairs of the concourse to get onto the field to go say hi to dad, and all their uncles, their 50 plus uncles on the field and stuff. And it's kind of funny this week, Nick Dembski, his daughter was running around the field, and Uncle Brady had his arms stretched out, and Nick's daughter wanted absolutely nothing to do with Uncle Brady. She just turned around and went the opposite direction. So that was kind of funny. But yeah, no, it is kind of nice to see how this team really, how much importance they put on the family side of things. And these guys openly talk about it. And you go to practice, you'll see countless wives and girlfriends and all the kids, waiting there and hopping on the field afterwards. And this is a team that really puts a strong emphasis on that and treats their families, their partners, their kids really well. And because, really, like, these wives, these girlfriends, like, they're the real MVPs of these families. Like, it's not easy having a husband or a boyfriend as a professional football player. Like, they get to the stadium like first thing in the morning, and they're staying there pretty late, and then traveling for road games and whatever. And yeah, there's a lot to it. So yeah, it was cool talking to the guys this week about, what it's like being a football dad and whatnot, and learning more about that.
You can check that out in the Free or on freepress.com right now. In addition to all the other great Bomber content, Hammer's got his CFL rundown piece up there as well. And of course, the latest edition of CFL 110, if you missed it, is up on the Winnipeg Sports Talk YouTube channel as well. Hey, listen, before we go, I see that Pacers jersey on the wall. Can they do it tonight? Are we going to get game 7? They've won so many games through these playoffs as big underdogs. I kind of felt like they let game 4 slip away, and that was their chance to really get this series in a stranglehold. How are you feeling about the possibility of getting this one back to OKC for a winner-take-all game 7?
So Reggie Miller is my all-time favorite athlete. So I've been a Pacers fan since grade 6. I don't need to tell you us that there really hasn't been a whole lot to cheer for as a Pacers fan for these past 20 years. I mean, they had a good run against the Miami's big three a few years back, but other than that, it's been pretty rough. So yeah, this series has been incredible to watch. Every game has been so exciting, but that game 4, when they're up pretty big late and they're at home. If they win, they'd go up 3-1 against this historically great Oklahoma City Thunder team that everyone just thought was going to steamroll Indiana. And the Pacers let that one slide through their fingers. It goes 2-2. Then they lose game 5 in Oklahoma. And Tyrese Haliburton, clearly playing hurt, doesn't make a single field goal, ends the night with only 4 points. And they still gave him a good run, but it wasn't quite enough. So tonight, I don't know, man. They need Tyrese Haliburton to score more than 4 points. That would, for starters, that would certainly help. I think if they could just get through tonight, somehow pull out a win. Doesn't got to be pretty. If TJ McConnell has to come off the bench and save your butt again, like, hey, that's fine. Just get it to game 7. Yes, the Thunder are probably healthier, and yes, they're stronger and faster, and they're suffocating on defense, and they're more talented. But if you could just get it to game 7, who knows? Maybe this young Thunder team, maybe they'll buckle under the pressure. Maybe Spicy P, Pascal Siakam can have a huge game. The Pacers can pull it off. I don't know. I'm not going to count this team out. The fat lady, she's definitely warming up the vocal cords right now. But this Pacers team has looked down and out so many times. There's been so many games where they've been trailing by $1 billion and they somehow come back and pull it off. So don't write them off, yes. But I'm not getting my hopes up at the same time.
Hey, listen, they have been absolutely incredible. They've done a full Houdini in at least one game of every series. Why not do it in the series and get this one back to OKC and make something happen? I'll be pulling for him tonight, that is for sure. Taylor, this is awesome convo. Great to have you back in the peg, and great to have you back in the program. Let's do this again soon. And we're already looking forward to the draft at the end of August as well.
Hey, maybe you guys can actually make the playoffs this year.
Hey,
you and Remo.
Listen, this is an outrageous besmirching us. Myself, the guys that really need to step up this year is myself and Josh. After meeting in the final the first year, it did not go our way. But listen, last year was a season that really was taken over by destiny. I mean, Ted Wyman winning our league from the heavens is still something I will never forget as long as I live. More than happy to see Way. But the Ted Wyman Bowl, the Ted Wyman Trophy, will be contested by my squad. I guarantee you that. I'm already deep into draft prep. I'm reading the Back Bacon Brief every day from Josh Vreesam. He is a fantasy football psycho. I respect it in a big way. So the countdown is on. Let the trash talk begin. But in the meantime, we'll look forward to your coverage and the rest of the gang, the Free Press on Bombers Lions on Saturday night. Thanks so much for doing this, dude.
You bet, guys. See you soon.
Appreciate it. There's Taylor Allen. You can read his latest in the Winnipeg Free Press, all up right there. All right, Murat's going to jump on in just a minute. Let me thank Princess Auto for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Of course, Princess Auto, founded in Winnipeg, headquartered in Winnipeg, and supporting so many areas of our sports community. Big supporters of the Goldeyes, where we'll be tonight. Of course, Winnipeg Sports Talk and your Bombers as the home of the Bombers at Princess Auto Stadium. 3 locations in Manitoba where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. Pop by and see them, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, out in Brandon, or shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. I am getting closer to heading out to Aikens Lake. I cannot wait. I'll be firing out some photos and videos of the Aikens experience. But folks, if you are thinking about a world-class fly-in fishing destination where you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg, Aikens Lake is the spot. And as incredible as the world-class fishing is, it's the hospitality from the Aikens team and the Terren family that truly put it over the top. Go to aikenslake.com for more information on options and availability for the 2025 fishing season. And make sure to check out all their socials at Aikens Lake for more on what the Aikens experience is all about. And just before we get to Murat, huge thanks to F Apparel. Fellas, wedding season is here. And if you're looking in your closet and realize you need to up your menswear game, get on down to F at 190 Smith Street Stat and get that rectified. Custom suits beginning at $400. Chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and an incredible selection of menswear accessories. And if you are getting married or in a wedding party, make sure to talk to the fellas at F about a special discount for your wedding party when you get your suits for the big day at F Apparel. All waiting down 190 Smith Street downtown. Check them out online or make an appointment to come in for a fitting at F, that's EPH apparel.com. All right, firing up some hockey talk with our good friend Murat. This segment brought to you by your Prairie Toyota dealers who want to remind you to get in and go with the Toyota Tundra. Quality that means it has the strength to take on any challenge, off-road or hauling a heavy load. And it's backed by the peace of mind knowing it's a Toyota. So take the road less traveled in comfort, room for teammates, friends, and gear. Can we talk about how good the Toyota Tundra looks anywhere it goes? It turns heads. Saw a few at Clear Lake last weekend, and I can assure you they were turning heads. Beautiful vehicle. You can get your hands on one from $154 weekly for 60 months at 5.39% APR with $71.99 down. Hybrid options available. Visit shoptoyota.ca. All right, let's dive into the hockey talk and welcome Murat of The Athletic back in. Murat, what's up, buddy? How are you?
Hey, missed you. How are things? I'm good, and I'm jacked to be here. How are you?
I am well. We've got beautiful weather. We have our sold-out WST patio party at the Goldeyes tonight. So everyone's in good spirits. And you know what? We're now officially on to the offseason. The Stanley Cup playoffs are over, and it is now time to talk draft, talk free agency. But before we officially do that, let me just get your thoughts on the playoffs overall and what you thought of the Panthers repeating as Stanley Cup champs against the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, 1 week on this show, I'm going to do one of those, try not to hurt my hand from patting my back so hard. I called the Panthers win in what I believe was Game 3, and I said that if they did win, they'd win the series. Not a bad track record here talking about Panthers Oilers.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay. Now that was embarrassing, bragging like that. The thing for me about the Florida Panthers is just how hard they made Edmonton work for even a chance at a scoring chance. Just the way they defended in layers. Edmonton could beat one player. There'd be another series of players in the middle. There was a real sense that the Panthers, for me anyway, they top to bottom of the lineup, they've got that dog in them, so to speak. Everybody's a pain in the ass to play against. Everybody fights for the middle of the ice at both ends. And they're well organized so that the moment they get the puck, it's full go the other way. The moment they lose the puck, it's full go to get the puck back. And when you have, a series of talented two-way edgy players, even the Edmonton Oilers, who were full value to make it as far as they did, can't get a sniff at a scoring chance. And the only other thing I can say is, well done, Nate Schmidt. Congratulations.
Oh, it was great to see Nate with that dude's always smiling, even in the worst of circumstances. And, considering he was bought out, signed for the league minimum, couldn't have ended better. And certainly, there's going to be plenty of teams that'll be interested in the services of Nate Schmidt coming up on July 1st. If he doesn't stick around in Florida. With the Panthers being the team to beat and the standard now in the National Hockey League, with the style that they play, with the way they took teams to the alley series after series, what do you think the takeaways are around the league with GMs in what is pretty much a copycat league as we get closer to free agency?
Yeah, I think the two big takeaways from the playoffs for a lot of teams and the way that they do exactly what you said, where they copy each other, hard to play against is going to just be dialed that much, even that much further for everybody. If a player has limited puck skill but is an absolute pain in the ass, I think that guy's value just went up. We could see that as soon as the draft, where there's going to be a premium on compete level, on size, all of those sorts of things. It shouldn't be lost in it that all of Florida's, I keep saying pain in the ass. all of those players can play. Sam Bennett is a wonderful hockey player, both sides of the puck. Brad Marchand as well. Matthew Tkachuk, probably the acquisition that created their Stanley Cup window. Everybody, and you go even further. I mean, Eetu Luostarinen is probably my favorite player that people don't talk enough about because he's the ninth most important forward on that team. Everybody has that two-way bite and that willingness to fight for the middle of the ice. I think it was Matthew Tkachuk who said, could have been Sam Bennett, please excuse me, but there are a ton of stars on this team, but the difference between us and other teams, every star is willing to do whatever it takes to fight for every puck. And that's the number one takeaway, I think, from the Florida Panthers' success. The number two thing that I think is going to come out of this is there's going to be a lot more belief in veteran players, the Corey Perrys and Brad Marchands of the world, to show up if they're the goods, to show up when the time comes.
You mentioned Luostarinen. I just looked at this. I had to look at it twice to make sure that it was correct. I mean, we knew that he was dominant, and I believe he led the Panthers in 5-on-5 points. He was not on the power play, had 19 points in 23 games. Murat, in the entire regular season, Luostarinen had 24 points in 80 games. Like, there is something about individuals and players, and listen, I don't think anybody had him. Like, I was in a hockey draft where everyone on Florida got picked. I don't know if he got picked, but
yeah,
like, I'm not sure like what we can deduce from this other than there are certain players that in the right situations are able to raise their level of play. He in that line was absolutely phenomenal. And the funny thing is that Brad Marchand gets a ton of credit because he was the guy with Wendell and Luostarinen. And I think we all agree that if it wasn't Sam Bennett, Brad Marchand was probably getting that Conn Smythe.
Yeah, incredible. Like Brad Marchand, 6 goals in 6 Stanley Cup Finals games, 2 game winners. And also there's a case for other players on his line for having, enormous impacts. That's what you get in the top 9 of a Stanley Cup champion, where like the quality of those players. For me, Luostarinen caught my eye during last playoffs because of a number of scoring chances he killed, actually, where he was in Florida's goal mouth, fighting for low ice and basically saving goals. He did it multiple times throughout last year's playoffs. I would never in a million years have predicted the type of offensive surge that he had this year. I guess it makes sense when you're that deep that your third line on paper is going to produce because like other teams are exhausted trying to keep up with lines 1 and 2. But for me, Luostarinen, Anton Lundell, they take care of their own end with such dogged determination. The offense becomes a bonus. You pair him with somebody like Brad Marchand, who scored a ton of points, I think almost 1,000 over the course of his NHL career, 980 in the regular season, 158 points in the playoffs for Brad Marchand. I mean, that's incredible stuff to be adding to your quote-unquote third line. Well-built, just well-built. Hats off to that franchise.
Listen, well-built, and I would say somewhat fortunate. There would have been many other teams that would have been very interested in Brad Marchand's services, but when you have a player with that much tenure that says, I'll accept a trade to these guys. Like I know Sweeney's getting dragged for only getting a second, which obviously with the caveats became a first-round pick, but all teams aren't created equal when it comes to where players are willing to go and where players are able to get to with no trades and whatnot, which brings us to the Jets, who are always in sort of a have-not position when it comes to that, Murat, which makes keeping on to your own that much more important. You know where I'm going with this, Nikolai Ehlers. And hey, at the start of the show, I've kind of been back and forth on this, but I was reminded today, listening to Elliot Friedman talk about a couple of the guys that just got signed that were planning on going to unrestricted free agency, Matt Duchene, Zetterlund in Ottawa, that guys are gone until they're not, but there also is still time before July 1st. And I still, maybe I'm just being optimistic, but I hold out hope that that 8th year that the Winnipeg Jets can offer, that no other team can, could potentially be something that might be in the back pocket of Kevin Cheveldayoff that might be able to get something done. where are you at with Ehlers right now? Is there any reason to believe that that could happen, or should we expect this to go to July 1st? If it goes to July 1st, does that make the Jets probably unlikely to retain his services?
Yeah, from where I sit and what I can gather at this time, like I still don't think that Nikolai Ehlers is a long-term Jet. I still think he goes to July 1. I still think that he listens to the offers that he gets and then sizes it up. You know, how do I feel about this city? How do I feel about what my lifestyle is going to be there? How do I feel, you know, about opportunity, which is critical? There's going to be a combination. If you can thread the needle of a place that Nikolai Ehlers wants to go, a place where he can play a substantial role, and a place that's going to have a substantial chance of winning, I think that you're going to thread the needle of being able to sign or re-sign Nikolai Ehlers, depending on who you are. I also think that one of the best things that Ehlers and his camp have done is sort of kept their mouths shut. And what that means for them is they've said nothing that they can't walk back. Like if they go to July 1st and for whatever reason they find crickets, or they find the money just isn't what they always believed that it could be, or maybe it is good money, but it's only the Chicagos and Utahs and teams that you don't necessarily see knocking on the Cubs' doors are in the pending future, maybe they're going to circle back to Winnipeg and be like, okay, well, at least we know what that looks like. So I don't think, without knowing, but based on what I've been able to gather, I don't think they've slammed the door on Winnipeg. At the same time, I think it's going to be most likely that, you know, I've thought about New York as a really, the Rangers, possibly even the Islanders as a good opportunity, potentially the New Jersey Devils, potentially the Carolina Hurricanes, potentially the Washington Capitals. There are some teams out there who have space in top 6 roles, and you know, they're pretty much either have the cap space or they're a hair away from it. So I think Ehlers will find what he's looking for, and it won't be in Winnipeg. At the same time, still holding out that small percentage chance that there is a chance.
Murat, if Ehlers staying here is plan A for the Winnipeg Jets when it comes to the top 6, where does plan B start?
Great question. I've been I've spent a non-zero part of my day so far wrestling with this. Like, what do they do?
Me too.
Yeah, I guess that's why we talk about hockey together, and that's why we do what we do. But it's tough for me because with Ehlers on board, I still want the Winnipeg Jets to add another player in the, I want to say, Niederreiter style of play, maybe Niederreiter plus. I keep pushing Andrew Mangiapane as a player who played third-line minutes in Washington last year, but is actually better than that and can be a more impactful middle 6 winger. I keep pushing that as a buy low because his point totals came down, and I believe that he's more than what his point totals showed. And I want that type of player, whether it's him or otherwise, with or without Nikolai Ehlers. If Ehlers is gone, as I just told you, I expect that's what's going to happen. Well, then, where do you go? And I know the Jets have loved Brock Besser before, but for me, he's not in that class of player. And to the degree that some view Ehlers as a bit of a poacher offensively, and I don't know why. I think Besser has a little bit of that to him as well. I wondered about Mikael Granlund as a possibility if Dallas needs to shed some cap. Whenever I can get to a situation where I think to myself, maybe that player could be available to the Jets, it's not in that class of player. So Winnipeg's real contingency plan, unless I'm absolutely shocked in the end, is progress from Cole Perfetti, progress from Gabriel Velarde, Brad Lambert arriving, Nikita Chibrikov arriving, and then, of course, the name that we managed to go a few minutes here without saying, and that would be Jonathan Toews, who I think is very realistic for them too.
Yeah, I mean, we should get to Toews for a minute. And I'll tell you what, I mean, for everyone that was saying guys are just too old, I mean, the Stanley Cup playoffs is a perfect example that that's not necessarily the case with what Perry did for the Oilers and Marchand did incredibly for the Panthers. Toews is different, though, just considering what he's been through for the last number of years and being 2+ years out of the National Hockey League. But as I've said for a long time, I maintain this guy is walking straight into the Hall of Fame when he's eligible. He does not even consider this if he doesn't think that he can be a very good version of himself. We'll see what that is, but I think it's a low risk, high ceiling opportunity for a team that can get him. And it's great news that Winnipeg seems to be very firmly entrenched near the top of that list. We have heard that this decision could be made before July 1st. I mean, relatively soon. I mean, do you have any insight as to what it's coming down to, and where are you at right now with the likelihood that Winnipeg wins this battle, if you will, for Taves services?
Yeah, there's some capology that I have to dig up, but I'm actually told that even if the decision is made soon, it can't be signed until July 1st. And that has something to do with reserve lists and contract status that I overlooked prior to this morning when I was told that. So that doesn't stop Jonathan Taves from making a decision. And if you listen to Chris Johnston at The Athletic and his show, he's talked recently about, a decision could be coming soon. A lot of people, including him, are talking about Winnipeg and the Colorado Avalanche being front runners. And for me, it makes sense that teams looking to size up what their year has in store for them. The draft is a really, really big tee up to July 1. You see trades get made at that time. You see picks get moved. You see players get moved for picks and all that sort of stuff. That for me, coming out of the draft or in and around that time, I think if I were an NHL team, I'd want as much clarity as possible. At the same time, Jonathan Taves has earned the right to make choices on his timeline. So if he does need a few more days than that, I think that nobody, the Winnipeg Jets won't be upset with it. And then just from whatever I've been able to glean, I don't have Pat Brisson isn't texting me back kind of deal, but there are other ways to poke around. I think that Jonathan Taves wants to win. He wants to do it in a place that feels right to him. He wants opportunity to show that he's still a capable player. And it also seems to me that, I don't know what to expect from him. I'm saying to folks, imagine a bottom six center until he proves otherwise. But I think that he is the type of humble about his abilities that if that's his best game, I think that he'll give you that quality of play kind of on a night in, night out basis to the extent that his health makes it possible. So I wouldn't be too leery of him as a third line center if that's what it ends up being, remembering that Adam Lowry, when healthy, often plays second line minutes as well. So there's a lot of reasons to think that Winnipeg has the opportunity that I think would help Taves do the things that he wants to do.
Murat, you mentioned Mikael Granlund a minute ago, and Granlund was an interesting player. I mean, we've talked for a long time about that center ice position and needing more here in Winnipeg. I thought he was a really shrewd acquisition by Jim Nill, way in advance of the trade deadline. Excuse me. They were coming into, and I'll pull this up right now. They were coming into the summer with $6 million in cap space. Mm-hmm. They just re-signed Matt Duchene to a 4-year deal at 4.5 AAV. Puckpedia is saying they've got less than $500,000 of cap space left. There's a potential they trade Mason Marchment. We've heard Jason Robertson's name's even out there. But let's assume that the Dallas cap situation precludes them from signing Mikael Granlund. What would you think about Granlund as a fit here in Winnipeg to help bolster the center ice position on a 2, 3, 4-year deal for a 33-year-old that's been pretty consistently productive here in the league?
Yeah, in the extent that he's a better player than a lot of Winnipeg's bottom six or et cetera, he upgrades the team if you're able to sign him. I believe that. He has the foot speed to play that center position in Winnipeg, which I know is a big deal for the Jets in terms of who they want playing down the middle. I wonder about his faceoffs to a certain extent. I'm not sure what his most recent performance is, but in the back of my mind, and I don't have it in front of me, in the back of my mind, I've looked him up before, and those were some middling numbers. I hope that that's accurate. Please, out there in the chat or whatever, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that that's a big part of why the Nemesnikov line gets as few minutes as it does, is that Nemesnikov's faceoffs were so poor, and Ehlers and Perfetti weren't taking a lot of draws for him. So can you trust them in the D zone against I want to say Barkov because he's on my mind, but obviously they didn't play in the playoffs. And I think the faceoffs will also be important, which is another reason why I think the Jets will be all over Taves, because they will be able to trust him to win those. I like Granlund, and I think it's the sort of player that would make sense for a team who isn't number one on a lot of lists, because he would make the team better, even if he's not the player that everybody's dreaming of right here and now.
Yeah, he's intriguing, and maybe it's just that we saw him score a hat trick against the Jets in the playoffs, and we saw what he was able to do at times. But he was a nice fit in Dallas, and this is, the Dallas cap situation is fascinating in that they made their decision. They're bringing Duchesne back. He's signed for the next 4 years, but there are some other shoes to drop now in Dallas based on just simply being under the cap with the full roster by next year. I do think Mason Marchment, who's got 1 year left with 4.9 AAV, is a guy that, especially when we talk about the truculent nature of the Panthers, is a guy that's value probably went up even without him playing while we watch the Stanley Cup final. Who do you think, look, just your thoughts on Dallas's situation and Marchment and potentially Robertson, who would be a big, big loss to their team based on just how productive he's been pretty consistently after a real tough start to the past season.
Yeah, for me, it's astonishing that Jason Robertson's name is out there. This is an extremely high-quality player. I don't think he had his health about him when he was playing against Winnipeg there. It wasn't a good series for him. I don't think he stood out against the Jets. But if you zoom out just a little bit, this is an incredible hockey player who can drive play, put up points, deliver in all situations. And I actually think that, if the Stars have any chance of retaining this player, it would be insane to move him. I don't love that rumor. And I don't have this as sourced information, but you know where my mind goes is those rumors popped up in and around, if I've got the timeline right, in and around the Stars exit when Pete DeBoer was pulling his goaltender and then throwing Otter under the bus a little bit about it too. And there's I'm speaking out of turn here because I don't know, and I want that all over this, but I wondered, maybe was Jason Robertson maybe put off by something to do with the way that the coaching situation was went down and Otter was pulled, and was there a little bit of tension there, and could that go away now that Dallas is going in a different direction? I don't know again, but if that's it, then maybe there's peace in Dallas. If that's not it, and Robertson wants out for some other reason, every team should be all over it. Usually what happens in these situations is teams move their less important players to make room, to make accommodations. And then that's where Mason Marchment becomes, for me, a much more realistic ask. And, based on what I said earlier about, an Andrew Mangiapane, who I keep pushing, somebody who's just going to add that element of truculence to the Jets. And I think they need that with or without Ehlers. Well, Mason Marchment does have that. And, a little bit more annoying to play against wouldn't be a bad thing for the Winnipeg Jets.
Well, and the thing that people need to remember about Robertson, he scored 46 goals in a season. He's had 109 points. He's been incredibly productive. Murat, he's only 25 years old, has another year at less than $8 million on his deal, and is an RFA at that point. Now, we will have arbitration rights, but this is still a guy you're not even getting a guy for a year and you have to see what happens. You're still going to have his rights next summer, which I think would crank up the value of a player like that significantly when it comes to the return from a Dallas perspective.
Holy smokes. I didn't realize that. I hadn't looked that up. I just assumed he'd have a little more term and an end in UFA status. Robertson as a pending RFA is incredible value at the contract that you said. For me, if it's him who wants out, you got to sort that out because he's a critical player. And maybe Dallas is looking at him for whatever reason and wondering if they can't sign him long-term when the time comes, and is starting the process like Winnipeg would have done with Pierre-Luc Dubois, would have done with any of the other players that they've had in situations like that, where they just know someday this could be a problem. We need to figure out at least what the market says. Maybe that's it. But oh my goodness, and he's not just a points poacher. The guy can play two-way hockey as well, and what he can do with Rope Hintz, and that line can score and defend against anybody. If you're the Stars, you got to keep that player. We'd be dreaming to think that he gets moved unless there's a heck of a story there.
No, I think you make a great point. And, while maybe they have further complications as to whether we'll be able to sign this guy next year at that point, I mean, if you're bringing in a new head coach and you can make it work, I don't know how you move off of that guy at 25 years old after what he's done for your organization at this point, sort of in their window. Murat is with us. Murat, just bring it back to Taves for a minute. If what we're hearing from the Chris Johnsons of the world, that Winnipeg and Colorado are sort of the top teams on the list. I know Tampa has been mentioned. But if we're talking Winnipeg, Colorado, when I pull up Colorado and I just think about the center position, McKinnon, Brock Nelson signed for 3 more years. Of course, Landeskog can play anywhere. Nick Neckash as well. Charlie Coyle, who they acquired for Middlestat last year. Ross Colton, who plays a regular role and is signed for 2 more years at $4 million. There's a lot of depth at the center position in Colorado. Do you think that at all works into Winnipeg's favor when it comes to Taves making a decision about where he's going to play and where he'll fit the best?
I mean, theoretically, it should help Winnipeg in terms of there should be more minutes available. If Taves lives up to the sort of reputation of just knowing his body and knowing what he's capable of and all that sort of stuff, maybe it wouldn't bother him as much as I think it should bother him that Colorado's as deep as they are down the middle. Because if he has the goods, they'll find minutes for him. And if he doesn't, then perhaps he would be satisfied with a 3rd or 4th line role, depending on what his abilities are like. If it really is all about winning and all that sort of stuff, well, like Winnipeg, obviously coming off a President's Trophy and all that, high quality team, the Ehlers situation or how they replace him, that's a question mark. Colorado seems to be one of those teams that always seems to be able to fit in another guy. Like Florida did with Brad Marchand, for example. You're like, well, isn't that team full already? Well, hey, look, now Boston is eating part of that salary and taking less than market value because he wants to go there. But Colorado seems to be one of those teams for a lot of players, and I'm not sure what Jonathan Taves feels like about it. But I look at their situation with McKinnon and then having re-signed Brock Nelson, and I tend to think, well, hey, doesn't that cap what's available? And I got to tell you, the more I think about it, unless there's some surprises, I'm saying the coin is maybe 50-50, Winnipeg 50, and then a combination of Colorado and other teams 50. But I'm guessing that it's a Winnipeg signing when all is said and done.
Well, we'll certainly be paying close attention to it on a daily basis. It's going to be a really fun couple of weeks for hockey fans and certainly those of us in the biz. Before we go, we won't get into it. I'm sure we'll talk more about this next week. But if folks want to get over to The Athletic right now, thinking draft for next week, Murat's latest is Jets at the 2025 NHL Draft, evaluating 12 options for Winnipeg with pick number 28. Folks, you can read that and think about the options at 28. But Murat, I'll ask you something that I've kind of brought up on this program over the last few weeks post being eliminated. When we think about filling that center ice position or making some moves that kind of help the Jets in the present, what sort of chances, or let's throw a percentage on it, that the Jets actually make a pick at 28, or on the other side of it, that it is moved to help bolster the team for previously drafted players or assets that can kind of come right into the lineup as opposed to an 18-year-old getting picked at the end of the first round?
Yeah, I think I want to say a pretty high percentage, like 3 and 4 comes to mind, 75% chance that they do make that pick. And, part of that is just a sense that Winnipeg is a little frustrated with the amount of first-round picks that they've sent away over the years. And they do want to give their scouts some more darts to throw, and that's an important thing based on how the Jets had found success. Recently, of course, you trade Rutger McGroarty, you get Braden Yeager back. That's good. That works out all right. But then you've got Chaz Lucius retiring because Ehlers-Danlos syndrome has taken his ability to play healthy away from him. The prospect pool has taken a hit where they didn't have a first-round pick last year. I think that this is a situation where the prospect pool needs help in all positions. At the same time, like you and me have talked about, a few times now, the Jets often do shop with the first-round pick at the trade deadline, and it's often the second-line center position that they're looking to target. So if there is some kind of taker or deal, and this takes another team being interested in making that kind of deal, then by all means, it would make sense because you're saving next year's team a first-round pick. I don't think a first-round pick is at the heart of a Marco Rossi trade, though. If you hear what's coming out of Minnesota, they really want players who can play. Whether they get that or not, I'm not sure. So who could that player be? What can the 28th overall pick get you? I don't know, especially as we get closer to the draft. Teams seem to, at the trade deadline, they fire first-round picks around almost like nothing. At the draft, they're worth, inflated values. I'm guessing they hold that pick and they make it. And then, they ideally sign Jonathan Toews as well. I don't know that he's a stalwart 2C at this stage, but it might mean that they can shop a little bit less aggressively at next year's trade deadline if they are able to sign him.
Murat, great stuff as always. As I mentioned, the look ahead to the draft is up right now in The Athletic. Cooking anything else up for the next week or so as we really dive into the fun part of the offseason?
Yeah, I've been collecting as much as I can, about Ehlers, about Toews, and all that sort of stuff. So we're going to just get all of that in one place is going to be my next piece, kind of what I'm hearing about all of that. Some of the other more minor deals discussed or not discussed in some cases over the last year or so as well. The Jets' blue line is still crowded. There could be a couple of shoes to drop there. It's the part of the offseason where stuff really begins to happen. And the Jets have work to do, too, with Sandberg and Velarde and all that sort of stuff down the road. So there's lots going on in Winnipeg Jets offseason world.
Well, we'll be turning notifications on for your next piece. The draft preview on players that could be available to Winnipeg at 28 overall is up right now at The Athletic. Murat, thanks so much for doing this. Have a great night and weekend. We'll look forward to talking to you next week heading into the NHL draft in LA.
Right on. Thanks, Huss.
Thanks so much. There's Murat Atesh at WPG Murat on X and The Athletic for all of his fine work. Today's latest, the Jets at the draft, 12 options for Winnipeg with pick number 28. We are going to catch up with the home run king, Max Murphy. Perfect day to do that before we pack the lower deck patio for tonight with all of you for our Winnipeg Sports Talk patio party night. Again, we'll be there 5:30 p.m. before the game with all of your wristbands. Myself and Remis. Connor's going to come out. I think Liz is going to be there. I believe Ken and Mike as well making an appearance. So really looking forward to what should be a very, very fun night. Just before we bring in Max Murphy, shout out to Royal Sports, getting ready for summer right now. Of course, all the new Bomber gear is in. You might want to jump on some of that before you get back out to Princess Auto Stadium for the game next week against the Edmonton Elks. You guys might have to take Slick down there and get him done up with some more Winnipeg gear while he's in town. Of course, but it's not just the best in licensed merchandise. Soccer, baseball, softball, tennis, running, a huge selection of bikes and so much more. Like their massive Yeti section, the best in town for all you campers. There are folks that want to get some great Yeti stuff for the lake. It's all waiting for you at Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Give them a follow on Instagram as well at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. And hey, if you're not at the ballpark tonight with us, you might want to head down to Boston Pizza. The playoff menu is still there. We still do have some playoffs, at least for one more night. Taylor Allen's Pacers going up against OKC tonight in Game 6 of the NBA Finals. And while it lasts, that playoff menu with the All-Star Canadian Poutine, which is unbelievable. Wing flights are back, pizza flights, and of course the two new pies, the Triple Pep and the Wingman Pizza, available at your local Boston Pizza. And just before we get to Max Murphy, let's give a big shout out and thanks to our friends at Little Brown Jug, Manitoba's favorite local brewery, and a brewery that I think will be enjoying a few 1919s and generics from tonight at the ballpark.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
Well, with our Goldeyes night tonight with Winnipeg Sports Talk, we thought what a perfect night to welcome in the recently crowned all-time home run king in Winnipeg Goldeyes history, star slugger Max Murphy, to the program. Max, what's going on? It's great to have you on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hey, first things first, congratulations. No one's gone yard more than Max Murphy in Goldeyes history. You did that milestone recently and have stayed hot at the plate. Congratulations. Did you ever think when you first came to Winnipeg that you'd be the home run king of this franchise that dates back decades?
No, didn't think crossed my mind at all. Didn't think I'd be playing for this long, but I'm glad to be still doing it.
You know, take us back to joining the Goldeyes in the first place. You were playing in St. Paul. You're a guy that's from the Twin Cities. How did it come to be that you came to Winnipeg in the first place?
Well, the Twins bought St. Paul, so after that, I didn't really know what I was going to do. I had a tough season in 2020. Didn't know if I was going to keep playing or what was going on, and then I think it was about February I started seeing guys that I didn't think were very good sign in with other good teams. And I was like, well, I should probably get on this. Otherwise, I'm going to be on a crappy team or something. And I thought about Winnipeg. I was like, Winnipeg's was the best place besides St. Paul to go. Best fans, best stadium. So I reached out to Rick Forney, and he was like, yeah, we'd love to have you.
You mentioned that reputation of Winnipeg elsewhere in the league. The St. Paul Saints, obviously, they had a very successful and interesting operation that was closer to home. But how would you describe, even to this day, the reputation that the Goldeyes organization has amongst players throughout the league?
Yeah, I mean, Winnipeg is looked at, like a lot of people will say it's like the New York Yankees of indie ball. Like, people want to come here. Things are good here. The players are treated well, and it's just a great stadium and get tons of fans. And that's not the case at a lot of places.
Max, you've been, consistent. It doesn't even begin to describe it. Year after year after year, one of the top sluggers in the entire league. Never mind the Winnipeg Goldeyes. But you're still doing it at a really high level. How much is this more just for the love of the game right now, or you obviously feel a big part of this organization now with your name in the history books and spending a lot of time and really making Winnipeg more a part of your life.
Yeah, it's just because I love playing. I just love hitting baseballs. That's really just it. So I'll just keep doing it as long as I can.
You mentioned Rick Forney, who brought you over here. Last year was the first year of the new manager, a youngster, Logan Watkins. Tell us about the transition from Rick to Logan, and how much have you enjoyed playing for the new manager?
Yeah, so Logan obviously brand new last year after coming from Cleburne. I'd always heard a lot of good things from guys that had played down there, and so I was just going in, seeing what it was going to be like, and he ended up bringing in a really good team. Just took a while for us to get going, but once we were going really good, and everyone was having a ton of fun, and that's what it takes to make a run in the playoffs.
Do you see similarities from last year's squad to this year? Just where the Goldeyes are, you're almost always going to be playing that really long road trip, starting down in Texas right from the start of the season, and sometimes it puts you behind the 8 ball, but it seems like the team's hanging in there, and just about, no better time to get on a bit of a heater and a streak than with some home cooking at Blue Cross.
Yeah, it can be tough starting on the road. I think we played the first month. We only were at home for a week or something like that. But it's nice to do that, get that Texas trip out of the way, and we're kind of all together at the beginning of the season. We get to know all the new guys and become closer. And then at this point in the season, we start playing a lot of divisional games, and hopefully we can get rolling.
Max Murphy's with us on Winnipeg Sports Talk. We'll be filling up that lower patio deck tonight with our friends from WST, and looking forward to the Goldeyes keeping it rolling. Tell us about the record-breaking home run. When you get to that point, is it something you're thinking about every time you go up to the plate and just want to get it done? Or is that something more that, the PR guy talks about and guys like us talk about, but you're just looking to get on base or hit one deep?
Yeah, I mean, before the season, I thought about it because I knew I was 5 away or whatever. But during it, I wasn't thinking about it at all. I completely forgot that it was the home run that was the record until I came into the dugout and everyone was telling me congrats and stuff like that. But really just going up there, trying to put the barrel on the baseball and see what happens.
It seemed like everyone knew that was a big ball because you ended up getting it. And I guess the 92 was on a fireworks day, so it was clear behind the ballpark in Winnipeg. So you actually have the tie and the record-setting home run. Yeah.
I mean, that was really cool.
But do you have any plans for that, or will you give that to Andrew and they can figure out something special to do that for yourself and Goldeyes historians?
I have no plans for it. If they want it, they can have it. But, I mean, I've gotten so many balls over my career. I just have a stockpile of them. They always end up becoming like PP balls in the off season.
Well, hey, you know what? That's a good sign. If you have so many special baseballs, it means a lot of them going out of the yard, and obviously that'll help you win baseball games. Max, I do want to go back to the end of the 2022 season. Going to playoffs, I mean, you had a horrible injury right off the bat, and it seemed like that was something that, for a guy that had been so impactful during your time here, we weren't sure whether we'd see you back. I mean, tell us about recovering from that, coming back, and how maybe that second chance on your career has propelled you to do the great things you've done the last few seasons.
Yeah, I mean, that was tough. Obviously, in the moment, I don't really know what's going on. I knew my leg was broken. I've seen that injury before, never in baseball, but when that happens, I mean, I didn't even know if I'd be able to walk normal again or what, but I got into the doctors and they're like, we're going to put this rod in your leg and you're going to be completely fine. And I was just like, okay. And then just rehab every day, just trying to get back by the start of the next season. And then even when the next season started, it was tough running. I could hit and throw, but any sort of running was tough. Some days were okay, but a lot of days were it was hurting pretty bad, but I got through it.
How long did it take you to feel back to quote unquote 100%?
100%, over a year. I think I felt normal in Mexico in the winter and Mexico in November. And the injury happened September the year before, so about 14 months.
Well, I got to tell you, it was just so great to see you back with the Goldeyes, and now to see what you're doing and having your name in the history books just speaks to this incredible chapter of that you have authored as a member of the Winnipeg Goldeyes. I noticed that you changed the walk-up song this year. No More the Stroke from Billy Squire. You've gone a different direction. Was you're just sick and tired of hearing it every time you went up? What was behind that?
It was just time for a change. It's been I had that song for 4 years. I figured change it up, do something new. Last year I kind of had a little bit of a down season, and we didn't finish up the way we wanted to. So I figured change things up this year.
Well, Pour Some Sugar on Me, the new Max Murphy walk-up song. How did that make the cut as the selection? Of just a big Def Leppard guy, or want to be pouring sugar on the stands with baseballs, if you will, in the outfield?
That was actually my best friend's walkout song for years and years when I played with him, and he retired a couple of years ago. So I figured he's not using it anymore. I'll take it.
Was always a good one. Max, I just didn't want to ask you about off the field. We were just talking beforehand. You came on, and spending a lot of time in Winnipeg outside of just baseball season as well. I mean, has Winnipeg sort of become home after these last number of seasons with the Goldeyes?
Yeah, Winnipeg's home for me now. I like it here. Very similar to what I've been used to in Minnesota. And my girlfriend lives here. Her family is taking me in, and it's just awesome being here year-round for me.
Oh, gotta love it. Well, listen, we're all looking forward to getting out to the ballpark tonight. Just a quick thought on this year's team and the challenge moving forward through this homestand and the rest of the season to put together some wins and get back into a spot where you can have the opportunity to play for another championship in the fall.
Yeah, these next, well, I mean, the rest of the season really is important, but especially these next 3-4 weeks are almost all divisional games, and that's how you really move up in the standings. So right now we're a couple games below 500, and that's kind of right where you want to be. You want to be around 500 and then start to make a run at the end of the year.
Well, it seems like you've been on a personal heater ever since you put a Goldeyes jersey on, but let's see the team get on a bit of a heater. We'll be there tonight in left field. Looking forward to it, Max. But thanks for coming on, and congratulations again on the milestone. You certainly have etched your name amongst the all-time greats in Goldeyes history, but here's to many more moving forward and getting into triple digits on those bombs very soon.
Yes, perfect. Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks for doing this. Max Murphy of the Winnipeg Goldeyes on WST. All right, good stuff with Max Murphy tonight. Goldeyes game. We'll see you there. Of course, Fish in action throughout the weekend. Tomorrow's the 80s night with the Rubik's Cube giveaway, and they're playing E.T. on the movie E.T., the extraterrestrial. Phone home on the screen after the game. If you want to bring the kids out for that, 982-base, goldeyes.com for tickets on all Goldeyes games. But again, we'll be set up 5:30 p.m. Right at the bottom of the stairs outside the box office. We'll have the Winnipeg Sports Talk sign-up, so you'll know where to go if you've already purchased tickets. We'll have your wristbands there, and we'll see you all on the patio deck tonight. Cannot wait for it. Nice night at Assiniboia Downs last night. Remo, how did things go for you? You hit the first 2 races last night, if I'm not mistaken.
I was 2 for 2 on my first 2 picks. I was feeling pretty good, and then I thought I was gaining some ground on you in our duel at the Downs, and I think you hit a big one. I went with some favorites that actually had some good payouts. I had race 3 exacta. I won $16.50 on that one, and I had $4 to win in race 5 as well at 110. So I was up $6.50, and I was like, great, I didn't lose. Like, it's not amazing, but better than losing. And then you had a big winner.
I did. I hit the triactor in race number 6.
Yes.
And it was funny. The dollar triactor box paid $50, which was nice. But the horse that won paid $26 on a $2 bet. So I was actually surprised that it might not be a little bit more, but maybe it was people were loving the AI picks and were sort of high on number 8. Anyways, we came close. I don't know. I'm so mad at myself from yesterday. We were talking about my new favorite horse, Black Tekka, which has been amazing so far. And I stupidly took the other favorite in the triactor for the final race, and lo and behold, it wasn't that other favorite. It was Black Tekka that won, and the other 2 horses came in. But needless to say, a nice night at the track with the one triactor. Assiniboia Downs is back next week, and there will be Monday racing. So next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 7:30 p.m., free parking, free admission. And if you're smart, get a spot in the dining room. Chow down on that amazing prime rib buffet and make a night of it out at Assiniboia Downs. Let's get to our Breezy Bend golf report. It's the Travelers right now. And Patty and I hit our picks yesterday on it. And I got to tell you, we're not looking too bad right now. I'm on Keegan Bradley at 40-1, and Bradley is now second because Austin Eckroat had one hell of a first round. He's shot a 62, 8 under. Tied for second is Wyndham Clark, Rory McIlroy. Rory bouncing back after a couple of ugly weeks for his standard. And my guy Keegan Bradley at 64. Cam Young's at 65. Oh my God, Scotty Scheffler's 5 under through 9. So we'll see how low Scotty goes today. Canadian Nick Taylor and Canadian Adam Hadwin both tied at 4 under, along with a group including Vic Hovland, Tommy Fleetwood, and Jason Day. Of course, Breezy Bend, proud sponsors of all of our golf reports on WST. Go to breezybend.ca for more information about the course. Getting on the waiting list for next year. And don't forget, we'll see you at Breezy for the 2025 Manitoba Open later on this year, as Breezy shows off all the course improvements of the last few years and their beautiful new clubhouse improvements as well to Manitoba's hosting the biggest event of the year. Listen, just before we get to the Coolbet lines for today, I want to put this out to everyone coming to the game tonight. And this is a little bit of a different why not question of the day for Not Autocorp and Waverly and McGillivray. What is your number one in observation of our Goldeyes game tonight? What is your number one ballpark food item? Now you can pick something specifically from Shaw Park, or you can pick, Blue Cross Park, or you can pick something that you've had at another ballpark somewhere else. Remis have had, I still am very memorable of the pork chop on a stick.
I've had
from Target Field in Minnesota. I didn't have the pickerel, or I think they call them walleye fingers there. That was another one that looked quite good. It's always changing. There's a new barbecue place in the ballpark this year. It's the famous Dave's. That might be on the list tonight. I did do the pierogies. I've committed to having something from all of the concessions this year at the ballpark. So I think it might be either a butter chicken, a taco time, maybe a Sal's Nip. If I want to cross that off the list. But I'm actually sort of feeling Goldie Dog tonight. But let us know in the chat, what is your favorite ballpark food item? We'll get to your feedback on that coming up in feedback from fans first, coming up in just a minute. Let's get to, Remis, you can think about your answer to that question as well. But let's get to the Coolbet lines. And I'll tell you what, this is a perfect day to start off and remind everybody that Coolbet has the Goldeyes, and we can bet Goldeyes games. And I have just auto bet the Goldeyes to win tonight, minus 115 on the money line. It's a pick 'em between the Canaries and the Goldeyes. I think the Canaries got all their runs out last night against the Goldeyes. So we're going to take the Goldeyes to win at minus 115. The big game tonight on the scene is the NBA Finals. The OKC Thunder are now 6-point favorites over the Pacers and minus 227 to win the game tonight. The Pacers plus 190 on the money line to make previous guest Taylor Allen very happy and force a game 7, which not really having any skin in the game, I would love to see happen. So I'm not sure whether I'll be getting on this one tonight, but I certainly hope that the Pacers can win. Plus 190 there for you. We do have some updated CFL lines. And wow, the Alouettes are now 7-point favorites over the Elks. Very nice that we got them earlier this week at 4.5. The Riders were 2.5-point favorites. They're now 3.5-point favorites. Sounds like Kadeem Carey will not be playing. He'll be on the practice roster. So no revenge game narrative for your DraftKings lineups on the weekend. Saskatchewan minus 3.5. With the news that Dustin Crum has been running the offense for Ottawa, the Calgary Stampeders have gone from an underdog to 1-point favorites. They're now 2.5-point favorites, taking on the Red Blacks. And the Bombers are up to 3-point favorites against BC, which certainly indicates to me that it'll be Jeremiah Masoli and not Nathan Rourke playing for it. I'm just looking to see what our CFL 110 parlay is right now, because we threw it up with the boost early on. And I mean, this is part of getting in on good lines earlier on in the week. I think I originally bet this at like 6-1 with the boost. But listen, I mean, the Alouettes are now 7-point favorites for the boost. They're -4.5. And both the Riders and the Bombers only 2.5-point favorites. By the book, it's +384 right now. With the boost, it's up to +439. So if you want to ride with myself and Jeff Hamilton, that is up there right now. Obviously, the golf specials are already done because the tournament has kicked off. But we do have some exclusives and specials for tonight for the NBA Finals as well. Blue Jays got a big win last night. They're back at it, looking to win their series against... Oh, they're actually already playing this afternoon, of course, with it being getaway day. And they're down 4-1. Only in the third inning. Maybe we jump on a little live action on the Jays, +300. Later on tonight, you got the Guardians and the Giants, Cardinals, White Sox, Tigers, Pirates. We got robbed of the Scooble Skeens pitching matchup today. That, not cool. I mean, give the people and the fans what they want. Phillies, Marlins, Mets, Braves, Orioles, Rays, finishing off with the Astros, Athletics, and the final game between the Padres and the Dodgers on a full slate of activity today in Major League Baseball. FIFA World Cup of Club Championship, couple really big matchups later on today, and cool matchups. That's what this event is about. Seattle Sounders taking on Atletico Madrid. You've got Paris Saint-Germain against Botafogo of, I believe, FR. I'm not sure what that means or what country they're from. But let's just say that PSG, the Champions League winners, are a massive favorite in that one. And we've also got Gold Cup coming up as well. Canada's next action is on Saturday. They're going up against Curacao. Canada, a massive favorite, -400 on the three-way line. They are favored by 1.5. I'll be taking that and maybe even hitting a bigger number for Canada. Canada win by 3s +198. And the way they scored 6 goals. Check this, Reem, for a stat. Canada in the Gold Cup in 2009, 2011, 13, and 15. 4 tournaments. Canada scored 6 goals. Canada scored 6 goals in their opener of the 2025 Gold Cup against Honduras, who famously pounded us 8-1 in World Cup qualifying and ended our World Cup hopes a little while ago. So Canada soccer's in a great spot, and I'm hoping to do something tomorrow on the latest controversy with Jesse Marsh, our leader and coach of the men's national team, who was suspended for the game against Honduras under some sort of CONCACAF investigation for yelling at the refs or something, apparently from the press box or from the stands way far away. So CONCACAF's a joke. They always seem to be out to get Canada. We'll see how that plays out. But anyways, lots going on at Coolbet. Don't forget, make sure that you have opted in. Anybody that's a golfer, make sure you go to the promo page and opt in for if you just to be eligible for every time you bet $50 in the sports book, you'll get a raffle ticket into the contest for you and 3 friends for a dream golf vacation out to Cabot in Nova Scotia to play 2 of the top 3 courses in our beautiful country. Tons of other great stuff over in the promo page at Coolbet. And if you haven't played there before, use the promo code WST when you're making your first deposit. You'll get a 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit. All right, Remo, let's do some fan feedback. Brought to you by Fans First, your number one spot for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets on the resale market with no added fees. When you go to Fans First, you see tickets. What you see is what you pay. And of course, the Bomber games are now on Fans First. So if you're having a tough time finding tickets for a sold-out Bomber game, you know where to go, and it is the best place to sell extra tickets if you need to do it. So we asked with the Why Not question of the day, your elite ballpark food. What Where are you at with the ballpark food, Remis? What's number one on your personal power poll?
Yeah, if I'm at a ballpark, I think it's got to be a hot dog. But if there's like specialty food, then I would hit that. Like I had, I think I was in Seattle. I had the Itchy roll. They had sushi there. That was pretty cool. They didn't have like crazy food, at the ballpark. This was, God, what year was that? Like 2005 when I went for the first time. That was really cool. I did have the pork chop on a stick in Minnesota at Target Field. I had a really good hot dog at Busch Stadium in St. Louis that I'm still thinking about. So I'm hot dog, but tonight I might check out Famous Dave's. I remember thinking when when it first opened, Blue Cross Park, it was called CanWest Global Park. The idea that you could get Subway there, I thought was so cool. I would get Subway all the time. Like every game. I was going a lot then. Subway was really good then. It's a bit different now, I think, than it was in 1999.
Is there anything more readily available 24/7 than Subway?
It wasn't like that in 1999.
Is the only other thing.
It wasn't like that in 99. Now there's Subway everywhere. In 99, Subway was a lot different. They were cutting it the old way, when it first opened. And I would get Subway at the Goldeyes games. So Subway in 2025, it's a bit different. So I'm going to defend getting Subway there. It was awesome.
Our buddy Tim Anderson still pining for the original sub cut, the Subway cut through the top.
They need to go back to what it was. Like when you watch Happy...
You prefer that? There's a reason why they went to the current cut is because it was just logistically not a great idea.
Like, because it gets the mustard would get on your hands?
Yeah, like so much of the stuff was outside of it.
I felt like it was more even. I don't know. I mean, I don't really care anymore. I think at the time it was a change.
25 years later, I've moved on to another topic. Let's get to some of this feedback from everyone. Matt Hyman with a great tip, and we're not going to be too far away from the barbecue. Famous Dave's at Shaw Park has a Wilbur's brisket sandwich. We may have to jump on that. Jay Miller says the dugout dog. Al Broderick, Dallas Paul's hot dogs. I've had some amazing hot dogs. KC has a few specialty dogs as well. And I had a BMO Field. Actually, I don't think I posted this.
I never saw it.
I did do a review of the sausage. Like there was a regular hot dog and a sausage. I got the sausage at BMO Field when I was there for the soccer game. And yes, Matt Hyman talking about the old way of cutting bread, the memories. A big Subway guy here for Ishaboy Bruce. Tyson, 99 Subway was top tier.
It was. There wasn't anything else out there. Now you got a million sandwich places. It was like the OG place that you could go.
And Darth Skater talking about $5 footlongs as well. Bobby B, the smoked meat sandwich at Expos games were great. That would be great. Tristan Rivers music. Everything at Blue Cross looks good, honestly, but hot dog and or pretzel screams a night at the ballpark. Sometimes painfully stereotypical is just right. And Leslie Michtuk, for all the games I've been to and food I've had at games, nothing really stands out. I usually go for burgers or hot dogs or chicken fingers. Jet Dog, probably the best hot dog. Listen, the Jet Dog is elite. But tonight, I might actually go all the way to the other side of the ballpark for an inning and get my hands on a Goldie dog. Split hot dog, which I love, cheese, bacon, all of that stuff. We've got big decisions to make tonight. I'll tell you that. One thing I know is I'll be enjoying a couple of Little Brown Jugs. I'll be looking to see all of you at the game tonight. And we'll again remind you that we'll be set up to greet you all and get you your wristbands beginning at 5:30 p.m. before 6:30 first pitch. So come hungry, come thirsty, come ready to have some fun. And we'll look forward to seeing you then. Hey, Remo, just before we go, what did you think about the announcement from the Stampeders of the Stampede Bowl, which will feature our Winnipeg Blue Bombers this year?
Yeah, the Stampeders trying to make it a thing. You saw the success of the Banjo Bowl, known as the Labor Day rematch in Saskatchewan, where they have the big trophy after. It's a game you hype up. Well, Calgary's got this Stampede every year, and they want to make it a thing to have a game during the Stampede and call it the Stampede Bowl. Well, you need a game that means something. You got to have a trophy. And shout out to the Stampeders. Check out this beautiful trophy made by the same people that made the Four Nations trophy. You bring in a big halftime act like Bret Michaels of Poison.
Say
who's
what?
Playing this year. Yeah. Bret
Nothing
Michaels.
but a good time?
Yeah, he's going to be
Unskinny Bop?
It's going to be talking dirty to you there. And I think that's awesome. So the Stampede Bowl, if you want to go to a Bomber road game this year and you've said, I've done the Labor Day Classic, how about the Stampede Bowl? That sounds awesome. Look at this trophy. So well done,
What's the date on that one again? It's the 3rd, July 3rd. I think that's
July 3rd.
Thursday, if I'm not mistaken.
July 3rd. I want to make it some bragging rights here. Yeah, the first time the CFL franchise has partnered with the Stampede, and then Bret Michaels. So some big halftime acts. I thought the Trews were awesome for the home opener here. Snoop Dogg in BC and rock icon Bret Michaels, formerly of Poison, and he's on a bunch of TV shows too now. It's great.
You know, this is funny. I'm just recognizing the calendar now. And July 1st, Canada Day, is actually Tuesday.
Yeah.
Which is amazing for everyone. I mean, that's basically going to mean a 4-day weekend for everybody with a normal job.
I think 5-day, because don't you take the Friday off too, or no?
Well, I mean, I guess if you can pull it off, but I wonder how we're going to work that, because...
We'll do a show Monday, no? On the 30th? Will we? We will.
Either that or do a show on the 1st.
I'm nervous about
kind of
this
have
first.
that being having that be our long weekend, take the Monday and then fire it up on July 1st for free agency and everything else going on. Knowing us, we'll probably do both days, but we'll figure something out, because that July 1st is going to be a big, big day, and there will be people that will be glued to everything happening around the Winnipeg Jets, and that should be us. But for whatever reason, I thought that first was the Monday, but it's actually a Tuesday. Tuesday, not Tuesday. I don't know why I pronounce Tuesday Chooseyday sometimes, but anyways, we'll figure that out over the next couple days. The bottom line is, all we need to worry about tonight is getting down to the ballpark, having a great time with the Goldeyes and the WST crew. Looking forward to it. Thanks again to everyone that bought tickets and sold this sucker out. We can't wait to see you all and see everyone at Blue Cross Park. Again, we'll be set up 5:30 or just after, right in front of the box office. You won't be able to miss us. If you bought tickets, you'll pick up your wristband there from us, and then we'll see you down at the lower patio deck underneath Craft Beer Corner for what should be an awesome night. Big thanks to Taylor Allen. He was awesome. Murat, always elite when he joins us. And of course, Goldeyes home run king Max Murphy on the show today. Much appreciation to all of our sponsors that make WST happen each and every day. And of course, all of you for being a part of it. If you're not at the game tonight, we'll see you tomorrow, 1 p.m. for a Friday edition. Greg Wyshynski wraps the NHL season and looks ahead to free agency and what he's hearing from around the world in the National Hockey League. And of course, next week is draft week, followed by free agency. We'll have a lot for you here on a very busy time as we follow the NHL and the Winnipeg Jets and, of course, Bombers and much more. So we'll see you tomorrow at 1 o'clock. And for those of you coming to the game tonight, see you at the ballpark. Can't wait for it. Have a great one, everyone.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.